Warning, the podcast that you're listening to right now is being broadcast and recorded from... Okay. Warning, the podcast that you're listening to right now is being recorded in the middle of a haunted location in Pennsylvania. If you're frightened easily, I may recommend to you to turn this off because you never know what's going to happen on these podcasts. We've already, in the last 3 days, recorded some crazy stuff and had some frightening moments, so... Once again, if you're scared easily, this podcast is not for you. But if you're still here with us, please, if you hear anything that sounds like an EVP or a voice that is not one of ours, please send it to Paranormal Files podcast at gmail.com. Sorry, it's freaking freezing cold in here. If you do send that to us, we will feature you on the show on one of our next episodes. Welcome to the Paranormal Files official podcast. So, welcome everybody to the Paranormal Files official podcast. My name is Colin. We are here tonight on a very chilly evening in Pennsylvania, and we are currently sitting in a, well, I don't even want to give it away because there's just a lot to explain, but it's a very creepy building, very ominous. We've been walking around all night doing these interviews, hearing things. So, without further ado, I'm joined by somebody who is going to tell us about the history of the location, and I'm going to let her introduce herself to you guys online.
My name is Shauna Garner, and I've worked here a little over a year now. So I only work here a few times a month. Obviously, other months are busier, like October. But the building was originally a poor farm.
I should say, I didn't even give the name.
Mm-hmm. Do you want me to, or
yes,
do you want to introduce it?
You can give the name.
Okay, it's now called Hill View Manor. It started out as the Lawrence County Poor Farm, one of three in the county in Lawrence County, Pennsylvania. And it was opened in 1926. So the section that you're in is actually part of the original building. We are now in the chapel. This is where they held non-denominational church services. The building consolidated in two other poor farms. I'm trying to think, I think in the mid-50s, because this was the biggest. And it was literally an active farm. So if you lived here because you didn't have any place else to go, you had to work for your living. So the people that lived here were predominantly male. They did have a few women, but they did try to keep them separated. So you're going to have a lot of men living here. There were some children. We have one notorious one up on the second floor we call Jeffrey. So we do get a lot of people reporting the sounds of farm animals. Now, you're still in kind of a rural area around here, but you're not going to have cows in the backyard. So
no.
Sometimes you'll hear strange things like that. And then in 1977, they added on the wing we call One North, which sticks out to the side, and it was converted into a nursing home. And then later on, it was just called the Lawrence County Home, and then it later on took on the name of Hillview Manor, which is what we go by now. And you can see it over the front. I don't know if you guys took footage of that. It actually has the embossed name now, Hillview Manor. But we do have some pictures where it said Lawrence County Home before.
Wow.
So in the early years when the farm was first run as the poor farm, the people that were the caretakers were called the Snyders. And they would live in an apartment right above the main entrance. They were not the nicest people, so they didn't treat their residents very well. They were more or less treated like inmates, like you were in a prison. And they were relieved of their duties when it was found out that they were taking in deceased bodies and burying them in mass graves and not recording them. This place was also used, this place was also used as the county morgue before the hospitals took on that role. So we have a lot of death records of people that would just pass through and be buried in the cemetery behind the building.
That is a lot of history for, well, I was going to say a small building, but this is a large building.
It's a very large building.
It's easy to get lost just walking around through these hallways.
Yeah, and it's the facade of the building is very beautiful, but when you're here at night, some people get creeped out. We're kind of used to it. But I always tell people this was a place where people were active during the day, even as the poor farm, especially as the poor farm, but even as a nursing home. So we get a lot of activity here 24/7. It doesn't have to be at night like you would think a haunted location would have to be.
That's how it usually goes.
Yep.
You know, the ghost hunting shows make you think that, you know, you have to be in the dark
Yes.
in a creepy abandoned hospital to capture a ghost. but paranormal activity happens 24/7.
Oh, yeah.
In normal
absolutely.
houses, new buildings, old buildings, it's constant.
Well, we tell a lot of people when we take our guests on their tours that, we try to tell them we don't allow provoking here because these are just people. They don't know they're dead. Some of them do. But just treat them like normal people. Some of them are cranky, but none of them are really like nasty or anything like that. So sometimes they get a little ticked at you, or sometimes they just don't communicate with you. You just can't predict it.
So for the people online who don't know what a poor farm is, can you kind of explain who would have been here working?
Well, like I said, it was predominantly men. So we're talking men that couldn't support themselves, didn't have a means of support, didn't have any family that they could go live with. So they could come here, but in order to live here, you had to work. So you were either feeding animals, you were milking cows, you were feeding the chickens, you were plowing fields, you were planting, you were harvesting. So you were literally working a farm. So, and they did really kind of structure their day, and they did not really let them leave. So think of, I don't know if you've ever heard of the term of a debtor's prison, say in England.
Mm-hmm.
It's very similar to that.
And then once it stopped being a poor farm and started taking in, patients who, also
Yes.
were technically inmates, who was here during that era?
Well, this building only closed in 2004.
Wow.
So
I
we
did not
still
know that.
have, and we've had, just recently, we've had people come through here who had relatives that lived here when it was the nursing home.
Wow.
So it is a recent closure. So it just became too expensive for the county to maintain it and or repair or upgrade it. So they just closed it altogether. So it is a fairly recent closure. So we still have people that are still alive that were here as residents. I'm sure they were moved to other facilities.
Wow.
So, it was anything from, once it became the nursing home, you had more women coming through. In the early days, in the 20s, 30s, and 40s, it was mostly the men. There was a small population of women. But when you go on your tour later, you'll see what we call the women's cafeteria and the men's cafeteria. So they did try to keep them segregated.
So when were the mentally unfit patients here?
Probably, I'm going to guess, more towards the nursing home era. I don't have specific dates on that, but they would have kept, most of them, they tried to keep on the third floor. It was a little bit more isolated. It was easier to control. So we do have a wing that we call the belligerent wing up there. They can get a little cranky.
Understandable.
It's my least favorite hallway, let's put it that way.
It's it's a sad history to kind of process, but what are you going to do?
Yeah. They say, I think, 10,000 souls that are said to have come through here. Now, you got to understand it was a morgue, and there is a cemetery behind us. So they had, the reason why the Snyders that I mentioned were removed, so we've been told, is that we had a flood come through here, and it was lifting the bodies out of the ground. So, yeah.
Ooh. So
a lot of them.
Let's just clarify that for people online. There is a mass grave with, do they know who's buried there?
They know some of them. A lot of them they didn't. A lot of them, when they were brought in the morgue, they didn't have any IDs on them. So a lot of John Does would come through here. And when the golf course that is now behind us was built, the graves that they could find and identify were moved so that the golf course wasn't built on top of them. So the cemetery that is left is very small compared to what it was.
But they moved bodies to build a golf course.
Yes.
What a strange business idea.
Yeah. And supposedly, and we don't have any confirmation of this area was supposedly Indian burial ground too, but we don't have any, that's just a story. It could be a myth, could be a legend. I don't know. I don't have any confirmation of that. When we give our tours, we try to give as much factual information as possible. We have been able to find the patient records of some of the people we reference on our tours, though. So we do have some confirmation, even from their relatives, too. They have come through here.
So can you tell me about a couple of the notable patients who were here?
The most popular ones are probably on the other wing on the first floor is Mary Virginia. She was born with cerebral palsy and was very childlike by choice. She probably had some mental deficiencies, but she lived here her entire life. And so in her room, when you go in, there's necklaces and beads and baby dolls. People leave her toys and things like that. There is an actual picture of her on the nightstand. And we've had nurses come through here who knew Mary Virginia and said that's exactly what she was like. She was just a sweetheart. Second floor, I mentioned Jeffrey. He's our little boy, although we think there's several children that might be here. And then we have on 3, we have Jimmy and Jules. Although Donnie is one of them now, Lester, instead of Jules. But they're 2 characters. And we have had confirmation of the tricks that they would pull. Just down the road from here was a Fisher Big Wheel. Think like a Kmart. And
I was going to say, I do not know what that is.
Yeah, think like a Kmart back in the 70s. And 70s and 80s, they walked down the street, walked into the store, put a TV in a cart, walked out and said, charge it to Hillview, walked it back up the hill, and we're in the process of setting it up when they got caught.
Wow.
And literally, we've had people confirm that's exactly what they would go out and sit at the golf course. And when people would hit the balls into the rough, they would steal them. And when the golfer would come looking for the balls, they would say, oh, have you seen my golf ball? And, oh, no, but I have one here to sell you for $1. Sell them back their own golf ball. Or for a cigarette or something like that. Yeah, so we do have, and we've had people come in who knew these people and said that's exactly what they were like. So.
And they are supposedly haunting the halls.
Yes.
Who is the creeper?
He's up on 3. Yeah, I don't know too much about him, but he tends to follow you around. Most of our residents will stick to a certain area, but they do roam the building. Like Eli will roam the whole building. He was a former maintenance man here. His name was Eli Sorrow, and we have actually found his obituary. He kind of stays right outside the main doors. There's an old boiler room back there, and he was the maintenance man, and he was a bit of a drinker, and he was found outside drunk. So his friends brought him in and put him in his room, but he'd been out there too long. It was too cold, so Eli died of exposure. So he roams the building, likes the girls, loves to play with their hair. But he just, he can be anywhere. But some of them just like to stay in certain areas. Like Mary Virginia just stays in her room.
I'm going to pause you for one second because my blood sugar's low. And I need to grab some Coke. Getting back into this, can you kind of start describing the paranormal experiences that people have?
We have a lot of shadow figures. We get really good EVPs on occasion. Here in the chapel, I know of one for sure. My group that I hunt with was here years ago without me, but they get a really good one in the chapel. I've seen shadow figures in One North, particularly.
So when you say One North?
That's the new wing that was added on in 1977 when it was becoming a nursing home. So it's only 1 floor, and it comes off the back of the building and out to the side.
So what sorts of patients were there?
Those would be primarily just like you would think of as it looks exactly like a nursing home and or a hospital. So it looks more like what you would normally think of what a nursing home would look like. Has a nurse's station in the center of the hallway. You get a lot of noises and EVPs around the nurse's station. So you'll hear medical equipment. And where the rooms closest to the nurse's station is where they would have kept the critical patients. So the people that needed the most care. At the end of that wing is an atrium where they would hold like Catholic church services. People would get together there. They could, at the time, smoke down there if they wanted to. So sometimes you do smell cigarette smoke down there. There is an organ that's down there. It is not plugged in on purpose because it will occasionally play. So
a haunted organ.
Yes. There is a piano above it on the second floor in the new cafeteria. Will occasionally be playing if you're not in the room. As soon as you get in the room, it usually stops. You could be across the building here and go running in, and then it stops. Donnie's favorite hallway is Angelo's hallway. It's in the old building. It's on the second floor, and we call it the noisy hallway. You invariably get activity there. Doesn't matter what time of day or night. It's very active. A lot of EVPs, a lot of noises, a lot of people talking, things like that.
And why do they call it Angelo's hallway?
Well, there is a gentleman there that was found hanging. There has been speculation that it was not a suicide, like everybody has been claiming, because as soon as you mention a suicide to Angelo, he stops all activity in the hallway. I mean, and everything stops. But if you ask him how he died, he will talk to you. So, or some people anyway.
So
And it's literally all you have to do is sit there and you get you get stuff on your recorder. You can hear stuff audibly sometimes.
So when you say that, what are we talking about? Like what kind of a death?
He was found hanging in the bathroom by a rope. Yeah. But they think that it was staged because somebody had killed him and then they made it look like a suicide.
Who would have killed him?
We don't know. Could have been an orderly, could have been another patient. We're not sure.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, we have a couple of those kind of stories. Yeah.
Oops. That is my blood sugar. I'm gonna put that down here.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. All right.
I guess give me some more history about the building.
Man.
What other stories do we have? What kind of, I guess not to be insensitive, but what kind of people what kind of deaths did this building see?
We have one on the 3rd floor that fell or was pushed out of the window, ended up in the asphalt right outside the door. They didn't find him until the next morning. We have the angry hallway where there was apparently a sexual assault of a nurse or of some female worker. Let's see what else. I'm trying to think. Sometimes it's easier when we're on the tour because when I'm seeing the places, it jogs my memory. George in the basement. He's, I don't know how or when he died. We call him George. He is one of the maintenance men, so in the newer section, though. And he's a huge Steelers fan, so we're close to Pittsburgh, so that's a trigger for him. Don't mention the Browns. Bad. No, can't do that. Boo. He's actually thrown stuff at people that have tried to come in with wearing Browns stuff.
Really?
Yes, dead serious. One of the guys that used to volunteer here walked in, was going to get something, had his brown sweatshirt on, and something came winging at his head from the back of the room. He's like, fine, I wasn't going to come in anyway. So, yeah, he was George can be a little cranky, but he's harmless. But, yeah, he was not happy with the Browns jersey.
One more. I mean, I can't get my mind off of this right now. So, how many people are still buried behind the building?
I don't know how many are actually in the cemetery. I don't know how many they moved.
Rough estimate?
I couldn't even tell you. I don't know. Like I said, there was a lot of them that were unidentified, and I don't know what they did with those ones. The ones that were identified were moved to other cemeteries with their markers, but I know there's still some back there, but I've never gone back to the cemetery. It's pretty rough back there, and it's hard to get to, so I've just never gone back.
But at one point, there were thousands.
Yes. Yeah, because this was the county cemetery. This was the cemetery you went to if you didn't have a cemetery to go to after your death. Yeah.
That's
especially
crazy.
Since, again, this was the county morgue. So,
well, it does make sense. Morgue, cemetery.
Yeah. Right above us, actually, closer back to the corner was the morgue room.
Ooh.
Yeah, on 3. Yeah, so. Yeah, down at the end of this hall. Down at the end of this hall is the embalming room.
And there is a table in there.
Yes. From what I've been told, it is not the original embalming table, but was donated because the other one went missing somehow. So, but.
Well, you've got a lot of history in this building.
Yeah.
And it is a rather large building.
Yeah.
So the stories just,
one of my
end.
favorite ones is up on 2, not too far from here, right above us. Across from Jeffrey, the little boy's room, is Mary Ayala, and we actually have her intake records. And recently we had one of her relatives come in who, talked about, and the stories that we tell about Mary Ayala on the tour, she confirmed. So it's kind of nice to know that we're not just like throwing stuff out there. She didn't have any eyes, so she had glass prosthetics. So she liked to take them out, stick them in her bed, and then tell the nurses that she needed her sheets changed. So they'd pull the sheets back and find eyeballs on the bed.
Wow.
Yeah, and she was also OCD. She had OCD and terrible germaphobe. So she's positioned right across from the bathroom, so she knew exactly how many steps to the sink and back. So she would walk over, wash her hands and back several times a day. So you can sometimes see her doing that up on 2. People have seen like a white mist figure walking there. Her rocking chair will rock without anybody moving it, because she would constantly sit and rock in her chair.
It's hard to imagine a life, spent in a building
in a care
like
facility.
This.
Yeah.
As an investigator, I visit a lot of places that have a similar history to a building like the Hillview Manor, but you don't really take the time to just stop and think about the people that actually spent every day here.
Yeah, especially since I've told you, we've had people come in who knew these people. Jules died, one of the guys up in 3 in 94, and Jimmy was his roommate, and they had been roommates for years, and so they never put anybody back in. And Jimmy was still alive when the building closed in 2004, so he moved to a different facility.
Wow.
So we had a nurse come through that knew them. So she worked here, as a young nurse. We had Mary Isla's relatives come through. So, these are real people. So they just chosen for whatever reason to stick around.
I wonder why.
I think for some of them, it's just the only home they ever knew, or maybe the place that they felt most at home. So, like, for instance, Mary Virginia, because she didn't live anywhere else, from what I understand. So.
Wow. So, how many people do they think total died here?
In the building?
Yeah, in the building. Do you have any sort of an idea?
No, I don't have a count. One of the other ones might.
Because, this place was open
a long time.
For a very long time.
And when they say the 10,000 souls, I think they're meaning the people that moved through here, the bodies, because, like I said, being the morgue for the county.
Yeah.
So it's not that number of people in the building. No. It's not that big. It's not
10,000
Waverly or anything.
people died here.
Yeah, it's not like Waverly Sanitarium.
No.
So,
but still.
Donnie, do you have any idea? But how many? 4,000? Is that what you? Okay. Yeah, I didn't know exactly how many. The building this is the 95th year of the groundbreaking of the building. So, you got to think through that time period. There's going to be a lot of them, but I don't know the exact number.
Wow.
Yeah.
Still a 4,000.
Yeah, that's still quite a number.
Even for an estimate, that is a very high number.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
Yeah, again, it's not the size of Waverly in Kentucky, but that's a massive building. This is still pretty big for, like I said, it was the largest poor farm, and that was before they added the one north wing, so.
For people online also, I want to remind you, if you're just listening to this podcast, you can go to YouTube and actually view the podcast and see we're filming on a camera here, a camera there, one right here. You got to reach back.
Yeah, wearing the gloves because it's cold.
Yeah, very cold.
Yeah.
And actually, a couple of nights ago when we were doing a podcast on the death car in Cleveland, we had this camera get pulled live. Like you could literally, I was watching it go. And we got it on recording. It was crazy.
That's awesome.
So you never know what's going to happen.
You never know. No, like I said, this building, sometimes it's extremely active. Other times it's not. But I think most times when most people come here, they get something. I was here last June. We had a private hunt in, and it was 4 massive thunderstorms in one night rolled through here. And I don't know if you've ever heard the story that lightning charges things. We're getting cloud to cloud lightning outside in the parking lot. It was just, this place was so lit. There was shadows running up and down the halls. It was like the investigators were losing their minds because they had such a good night. I'm like, yeah, well, 4 thunderstorms will do that. Unfortunately, it also does not help our roof situation. So,
yeah.
It's a derelict building, but we try to do as much as we can.
So how about your favorite paranormal encounter that you've had here? Personally? Yeah.
Well, like I was saying before, not a lot happens to me. I don't know why, for whatever reason, but the shadow figures is probably the best ones I've had, and we've had some good dowsing sessions. You can say whatever you want about the dowsing, but this one seemed pretty legit. So I've seen a lot of that. We get a lot of the characters that hang out here like to talk that way, or have figured out how to talk that way. So it's kind of nice. But I've definitely seen shadow figures dart across the hall at 1 North. Up on 3, there's the one hallway. Makes me ill every time I go in there, so I don't go down that hallway.
Which hallway is that?
Up on 3. We call it the belligerent hallway.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so it's on the other side of the nurse's station. But I don't personally have a lot happen to me. I get a little creeped out on the one corner going into 1 North, but I just think it's because it's dark.
Yeah.
And it's not well lit, and it's just like I always flash my light down that way. But and so I've had a few things, but not as nearly as much as some of the other ones. So,
well, on that note, I think we've covered the history pretty thoroughly.
I hope so.
It's pretty chilly.
Yes.
I'll let you go back to the heat if you'd like.
Oh, yes.
Thanks for coming on.
No problem.
We're
Happy to
gonna
help.
switch out.
All right. Sounds good.
Awesome. Okay, guys. So we're back. It is literally freezing cold right now. It's 33 degrees outside, and there's no heating in here except for a small space heater that is not reaching me over here. So I'm like freezing. It actually killed this camera, that one right there. So I had to move our third camera to be that camera because the batteries can't even hold charge because it's so cold in here. But I'm now sitting with a guy who has had just so many experiences here in the Hillview Manor and a lot in life too. I'm going to let him introduce himself real quick.
Yeah, my name's Nick Markowitz. I'm a contractor and broadcast engineer, and I do a lot of the maintenance work here, take care of the alarm, the wiring, fire alarm system, the cameras,
So because you take care of all of the kind of maintenance stuff, you're here a lot.
Yes.
And you're here, not hunting for ghosts, but you're here just working.
Yeah.
But you've had a massive amount of experiences.
Yeah, this place is actually sometimes more active in the daytime than it is at night.
That's so interesting to me, but
Well,
it makes sense.
It makes sense because the nursing home people, at this time of night, people are sleeping.
Mm-hmm. But they would have been active in the middle of the day.
In the middle of the day.
Doing all their activities,
Yeah.
going about the facility. The nurses would have been up.
Yeah.
So why don't you start out by just kind of telling me a couple of your favorite experiences from here in the manor?
Some of the favorite things that goes on around here. There's this guy named Eli, who's one of the maintenance men. He kind of likes to follow us around the building here, and you'll see his shadow move with us. It's kind of interesting. We'll be down in the hallway where the alarm equipment is, and they have to go in there and adjust it occasionally. And you'll hear the chains moving down in the boiler room, like somebody's moving the valves. And
that's creepy.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
And somebody will go, the skeptic will go, well, that's a rat. I said, well, you go down there, but I don't see a rat. I don't see a rat.
No rats involved.
I don't see no rats down there. I said, what's the rat doing hanging on a chain that, 4 foot off the ground?
That's a clever rat.
Yeah.
He's learned.
And then they'll say, well, it's got to be the building settling. It's like, well, you keep saying that to yourself, but you stand back here by yourself, and let's see how long you stay back here by yourself.
Exactly. So what was your first experience here?
Our first experience was with the owner of the building. Day he called me up here to come do a thing. Greg, unfortunately, he's passed. But I did a lot of work for his apartment buildings, take care of the fire alarms. He says, well, I bought this place. I need you to come up here. And we're in the hallway where Eli worked as a maintenance man. And it's an old simplex panel, and it's just going to be too expensive. And I said, I got some stuff at home. We'll patch it up. We'll get it working, get your system going. So there's this little CD case that sits in there, and it has the information on the panel, but it's missing out of the holder. It's like, okay, somebody must have taken it. Or he's like, I know. I just wondered, was here last week. I said, don't worry about it. So I get my pad. We walk all around the building. I get my checklist. We come back to the panel. There's the CD sitting in the holder. Now, Greg, who's a total skeptic, is like, at that point, you can see he's getting buggy. It's like, and this is a warm summer day, and you can see the hair raising up on his arms. And this is one of these guys, total skeptic, right? So then he goes to me, okay, well, I got those air conditioners I want to sell. I know a lot about that. I have a refrigeration license. He says, but I can't get any remotes for them. Can you get me any remotes? I said, yeah, they sell universal. I said, let me go over and get the model numbers off the units. Wouldn't you know it, the first room we walk into, there's a remote sitting on top of the air conditioner.
Wow. It's like they heard you.
Yeah.
Here you go.
Yeah, with that, Gray's like, okay, lunchtime. Go out to the truck and we get on the street for lunch, and that was about it.
He's afraid at that point.
At that point, he was afraid. But he was never, before that, he was never, ever afraid. But that
skeptic
day,
to believer.
Yeah.
Real fast. So after that happened, what was the kind of progression? How did the spirits come to know you here?
Probably the most interesting and the most scariest thing we ever had happen to us was up on the second floor, back at the nurses' station. We're going around, we're putting the new pull stations and the new horns and everything in, so everything would be compatible. And we actually, that floor up there is kind of crinkly and bubbly, like it's, and we actually saw the floor, and it sounded like a lady in heels. We saw the floor.
Wow.
Walking towards us.
Literally. So
Yeah.
you actually saw the floor depress and
we
get
actually,
dented.
just like you see this tablecloth.
Mm-hmm.
We actually saw the floor indent,
Wow.
and I'm not the only one who have seen it.
That's insane. That's powerful too.
Yeah. So my friends look. He's like, he gives me this look like, did you see that? I'm like, yeah. He's trying to scare you.
Did it work?
Yeah, he was scared. He didn't want to come back in here after lunch. We went to lunch. He wouldn't come back in here. He just.
But you don't seem that you're afraid at all of any of this stuff.
Nah. Well, you get jumpy. You do. I mean, here's just places I don't like walking around here. I get bad juju. Bad vibes.
What are those places?
Third floor, definitely third floor. I get bad vibes up top up there. That's where some of the suicides happened.
There were suicides?
Yeah.
How many?
33.
Here at the building,
Yeah.
33 suicides.
33 suicides.
And a lot concentrated on the third floor?
Some of them up on the third floor, yeah.
Just because of the fact that those were...
That was the more violent. And in some cases, when you read some of these deaths, I think there was a little bit of assistance with it.
And why do you think that would have happened?
The times, the people, these kind of places notoriously don't pay well.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not getting the best people in the world for orderlies and, and if an inmate, patient, they were called inmates back then, because they were wards of the state, was a troublemaker, we'll just help them out to the window,
Wow. That's just, I can believe it, though.
And there were people in wheelchairs that fell downstairs, that rolled downstairs. Was it a suicide? Was it accidental? So some of those suicides may not have been suicides. They may have been accidental, or they may have been a murder, but the rough number is 33.
So you've got kind of a mysterious number of suicide murders as well that we didn't even talk about before.
Yeah.
So you were talking a little bit earlier about your connection to the spirits and why you think you have a connection.
I'm a stage 4 colon cancer survivor. And I had an experience of crossing over to the other side, seeing the other side. Did it really happen? Was it just my imagination? I know my heart stopped on the table a couple different times during the operation. It was a 15-hour operation.
Wow.
And it was supposed to be 7-hour operation. Ended up 15 because of the heart problems I was having on the table. And I got to see the other side, and we get psychics come in here for the psychic fair, and they all say, well, because you crossed over, the ghosts here are confused by you walking in here because you can see them and they can see you, and which I don't see anything, but okay, if that's what's going on, fine. But the weirdest thing happens, like they'll be doing a REM pod session here, and they'll have activity. As soon as I walk in the room, that meter will go flat dead. I'll walk out of the room and the meter will start jumping up and the activity will actually double, sometimes triple.
Why? I wonder why.
Yeah.
Because they can see you maybe more clearly?
Clearly, yeah. And the other thing is I was born on a Friday the 13th.
Oh.
So.
Well, that's good too. You're destined to be a ghost hunter.
Yeah.
Even though you're not technically a ghost hunter.
No. I consider myself a paranormal investigator, but I'm a different type of paranormal investigator. All my years in the trade, I have 40-some years in the construction, electrical, electronics, and, I understand building systems and how buildings are built and how everything interplays. 99% of the time, I can give you an absolute answer why that door creaked, why that door opened by itself. It's that 1% you can never get a full explanation for, and boy, I'd love to be able to do that someday, but...
Mm-hmm. I don't think that day's going to be coming anytime soon, though, sadly. But that's why we're here, trying to get some answers. So people also hear footsteps?
Oh, footsteps all the time. All the time around you hear footsteps. A friend of mine was a total, complete skeptic, came in here to one time, and he got totally creeped out by the footsteps. We have a lot of activity in this room.
The chapel?
Yeah.
And what kind of activity?
We've had... there's a not so nice entity in this building. We've had girls down here, and sometimes they'll sit and they'll sing the hymnals. They've had the hymnals knocked out of their hands.
Really?
Yeah.
In this room?
In this room, had the Bibles knocked off the tables. We had an incident. Me and Drake were putting the camera right outside this door here, to our to your right, and we have these big, heavy fiberglass rods. We run them up into the ceiling. I got the rod run all the way up here. I'm getting ready to grab the rod. Drake's got it pushed up on the ladder over there, and all of a sudden something just grabbed the rod and just shot it right out of the ceiling on us.
How? Why?
Yeah, it was like a big wind just come up and pulled the thing right out of the, it's like...
So when you say it's a kind of a more negative entity, what do you mean by that? Who is this?
We don't know. It might be just one of the patients just didn't like religion or something, or maybe he just doesn't like women. There's quite a few men in here that this was like a man's place. Women had no business in here. I think it could be just them. I don't think it's an evil entity. Just some cranky old guy doesn't like women.
It's more, but the activity is more kind of violent and physical.
Yeah, it's like poltergeist type. But most of the time, most of the activity is friendly here. Like we get a lot of shadows. Some people, like the creeper, people see him kind of sinister, but he's on the floor above us.
Who is the creeper? What is that?
We don't seem to know what it is. It's been seen up on the ceilings. It's been seen on the walls. I've seen them, and I'm not the only one that's seen them down here on the first floor, which is very rare to see them down here. Over by the embalming room.
And what does he look like when he appears?
You see, it's like a black blob crawling. It's like a black crawling shadow. It's a weirdest looking thing, and I'm like, what
The creeper.
Yeah, the creeper, they call him. And it's like, okay, is my eyes playing tricks with me, or what the hell's going on here? But it's like...
It's a little blob.
Okay, if I'm seeing it and somebody beside me seeing it, okay, it's not an hallucination. It's...
You're seeing something.
Okay.
And that's what's interesting.
And see, and here's the thing, okay, you're walking into a creepy building here, okay, and you look at it, first, we're setting you up anyways, and you come in, you read the articles, and, the deaths, and, okay, so you're on edge anyways, but but then, if you're here in the daytime and it happens,
it's totally different.
It's totally different. It's like,
I was not expecting that.
Yeah.
And then you see the black blob on the floor crawling towards you.
Yeah, you see a shadow.
Shocking.
Yeah, you see a shadow. It's like, that's neat.
So, I want to ask, what's the most like violent physical thing that's happened to anybody in here?
One of the managers years ago got pushed down the steps.
Really?
Yeah.
Which set of stairs?
Up all the way up top near the third floor.
Oh.
Luckily, she didn't get hurt, but yeah, she got pushed.
Wow. And did she quit?
No.
Really?
No.
She stuck around.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. I would imagine someone who had that happen would be like, nope, I'm out the door.
Mm.
And
believe me, there's been a lot of people run out of this place. We had 12 Comcast guys in here one time just to bring the cable wire in here. They were so petrified to come in this building. There was a guy every other doorway as they were pulling the wires in. It was like...
And they were freaked.
They were freaked.
That's so funny.
I was just on a job the other day, working with an electrician doing the fire alarm system, and down in Pittsburgh. And he says, you got any jobs running? Any good jobs come up? I'm like, oh, yeah, I got a big job up in Newcastle. He goes, oh, yeah, I'm from Newcastle. I didn't, you guys travel around in the trades here and for work. And I go, what part? And he said he was over towards the Shenango Plaza. I said, then you know about Hillview. He goes, and he starts, oh my God, Hillview. I was like, why work in there? And he's like, are you crazy? I'm like, I mean, the locals are afraid. I mean, it was hilarious. We did a Halloween thing here for the kids down in 1 North, and we just walk up through the building, and you see the kids, they're out, they want to go Halloween, and the parents are like, you sure you're not scared? And you can see the parents are like,
the kids are excited,
but the parents were,
the real scared ones there.
And you can see the parents. It's like, the locals know about this place. It's so bad. There's a hardware store down the street, and it's actually one of my customers, and we'll rent tables and chairs occasionally for when we have the HillCon here. They will not come in the building. They'll leave everything outside. We got to bring it in, and then we'll take it out, and they'll stand out there and wash everything down completely before they'll even put it in the truck.
Really?
Yeah, they're that afraid that something's going to come back with them to the store.
Spirits. But it's funny because no one's ever been, seriously injured or anything like that here.
No.
I wonder why some people are so, afraid. Because look, we're sitting in the chapel right now just having a conversation. Nothing. I mean, it's cold as hell, but...
we've had those doors go slamming shut here. I mean, all by themselves. I mean...
But, the thing is, that would freak so many people out. I got a hair on my microphone. But I would love to see that. I mean, I wish that would happen right now. That would
Yeah.
be so cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's just I've seen and witnessed so many things in here, and it's just your mind wants to play with you. It's like,
And you kind of get numb to it too.
yeah, and it's just it's like you'll be sitting in the office up there, and you'll hear the doors moving. Like my one computer guy was here helping us one day getting these Ubiquity wireless points set up, and Jason's up in the office, and me and Drake are down here working down here. We had to fix some electrical outlets, and Jason calls me on the radios. We had the radios set up, and he goes, "Hey Nick, are you guys up?" I'm like, "No, we're down here in the chapel." "Oh, okay." 2-3 minutes go by. "Nick, are you and Drake up?" Like, "No, we're down. We're still down here in the chapel fixing things up, getting the lights working." "Okay." And about 2 minutes after that, he's down here with us. It's like, "Are you sure you're not?" I was like, "No." I said, "Look on the camera." I said, "We're right here. There's a camera right here in the chapel watching us." And the next thing you know, he's down here with us. Because the same thing, he's sitting up in the office, he's hearing those doors
Open and shut.
And then you'll hear stuff in the elevator shaft. Now, I know the noise in the elevator shaft is caused by birds and things like that, and the wind, and, that's why you'll hear some things. Sometimes it sounds like there's something moving in the elevator shaft up there. That's explainable. But those doors? Now, there's a theory called, I can't remember the name of it, Paranormal theory, I think it is, where they say about the layers of the earth and the conduction of electricity, and there's a slow, gradual heat. But I checked the geology under this building. We shouldn't have that going on here.
Wow.
So,
well, we could go on all day about stories from this place.
Yeah, I mean, and I know the one night I was here, there was a couple ladies had finished the tour. We walk them around on the tour, tell the stories and all the stuff, and they come down and they were just laughing. It's like, "You just have a good time." They're like, she said, I said, anything happened? They're like, "No, nothing happened." She said, "We just enjoyed the thrill of walking around in the dark, waiting for something to happen to us." It was like, she said that was the best, money we ever spent. Just waiting for something to pop.
It definitely is a rush.
Yeah, and then
when it happens too.
Yeah, and then some people come through and everything happens to them. It's like
jealous. Usually for us, we're there for 6 hours and nothing.
Well, there was a young couple come in down. He was a power lineman for the power company. Come down into the lobby after we did the tour, and they really didn't want to walk around by themselves. And I'm like, "Well, I'll walk around with you, And I'm talking a big guy. This guy's like 6'6", big guy. And it's like, "Oh, come on, I'll walk around." And we saw the creeper down by the embalming room, and that's. I thought he was going to leave right then and there. It's like
he's out of there.
Yeah, he's like,
even a big, tough guy sees the creeper and he's creeping on out.
But we had these 4 Army guys here the one night. They're all ex-Army guys, and for their birthdays, they all get together, and they're all paranormal hunters. And they came here the one night for the one guy's birthday party, and because they were chefs in the Army, they were up in the cafeteria, and they wanted to see if they could get some kind of a reaction up there, and they were doing EVPs, and they're making noises like you would in the kitchen, and you hear this big you hear right on the EVP, you hear this big orderly, "Quiet, they're trying to sleep up here."
Whoa.
Guy's like, "Okay, we're getting down off this floor."
Like, okay, out of the kitchen.
Yeah, we get a lot of activity up there.
You seem to get a lot of activity throughout the entire building.
Yeah, we down where the day room down there, we get the piano playing and the organ playing, and people claim they hear hoots of Indians and
footsteps banging. Doors opening.
Well, Drake, who you met earlier this evening, they swear to God they heard a dog man call out back here.
Dog man.
Yeah.
Here?
Yeah, here in Pennsylvania. Yeah.
Wow.
You don't hear them that often here in Pennsylvania. It's more like in Ohio, but yeah, we get them here in Pennsylvania every once in a while.
Wow. So this place is like a super...
Well, Lawrence County is a big hotbed over around Moraine State Park, and it's a big hotbed for Bigfoot and UFO activity.
You got everything here.
And we have a lot of mysterious deaths around here and a lot of unsolved murders around here, and
And then you have the kind of penultimate monument to this mysterious activity, the Hill View Manor that we're in right now.
We had during the summer here, we had a carload of guys got drunk,
Uh-oh.
And of course, they got to come peering in the window, down here. And they didn't realize two of our paranormal investigators, it was fairly cold that night, so they got their hoodies on. They got their hoods up. They were trying to stay warm. And of course, they're like, the two investigators sitting in the room are like, what's going on? Who's looking in the window, right? So they start walking towards them. Well, this guy sees he's he left his shoe out there. He ran out of here so fast, him and his buddies.
No
tearing
way.
out of here. Yeah.
The drunkies. Wow.
We have it on video. It's hilarious.
That's awesome.
So,
well, I'm going to have to cut you off here because we've already been chatting over 20 minutes, and we got to get to investigating at some point.
Yeah,
so
have a great investigation, and
yeah, thank you so much.
I hope you get some real good interaction here. So
me too. Cheers to that.
Yeah, and hopefully you'll get to meet the blob.
Yeah,
the creeper. I call him the blob.
I want to stare right at the creeper.
Yeah,
but I will be creeped.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you. So we're back. We did a little switcheroo. We got one more guest before we end this podcast on this very chilly night in Newcastle, Pennsylvania at the Haunted Hill View Manor. I'm going to let you introduce yourself real quick to everybody online.
Hello, my name is Donnie. I've been working at the Hillview Manor since 2016. I'm suffering from some sinus sickness right now, so my voice is a little crazy. I got some cough going on, so please forgive me for that. But
well, that happens to the best of us.
Oh, yeah.
So I hear you have a great story about an experience here at the manor.
Yeah, I've been here since 2016, and ever since day one, I've had experience here every single time I'm here. I've been here over 100 times, probably, and every time I'm here, I walk away with something crazy. But in here, particularly the chapel, I was in here doing a live video on Facebook for the Hillview Manor, and we were doing a spirit box session. We were standing right over there by the table, and I had it in reverse sweep setting, which it plays the radio stations in reverse, as most people should know, and it's the best way to do it, so there's no voices coming through in normal, speech. So I felt something. I'm pretty, sensitive to this stuff. I can feel when there's a presence in the room. So I felt something. I'm like, hey, if there's someone right around me, can you tell me your name? And clear as day, it came through Oscar. And I was like, whoa. And I have the video of that. I'll show you the video of that. But it was so profound. And ever since then, I want to continue to get to know this Oscar, because he reached out to me. And in that second of time, we had this connection. And it was a weird feeling. It was, I don't know. I felt connected with him. I don't know. It's weird, but that was one good example. I've seen things move on it by themselves. I've seen a bowling ball in the basement move by itself. We've told it to move left or right, and it's moved. I've seen shadows. I've heard voices when there's no one in the building. When I was locking up the building one time, we locked the door, and we were just standing there in front of the door talking, and all of a sudden we heard this ungodly scream from the second or third floor, out the window. And it sounded like an old woman. And we all stopped mid-sentence. We're like, did you just hear that scream? And just probably a month ago, one of the staff here were telling me that they experienced the same thing. And now we know it as the screamer.
Wow.
So I was like, I experienced that, and I didn't even know what it was. But if you hear it, you'll know it. It's ungodly elderly woman scream.
Oh my God.
And it will send chills down your spine. This place will do that to you.
Well, shit, I already got chills and I have more chills down my spine. I don't know if I can handle it.
Not just from the cold.
No. Got the screamer.
The screamer, you got the creeper, and you also got all the famous friendly spirits as well. They're not all scary, and ghosts aren't all just scary. There are friendly spirits here that will communicate with you in a good way, in a positive way, that you can walk away from feeling like, hey, it's not going to follow me home, or it's not the bad presence that I just talked to. So you got a mixture of good and a little bit of bad.
Well, that's what I like to hear. I really like to investigate the darker spirits. I'm drawn to that stuff because I feel like so many times. It's so powerful.
Oh, it definitely is. The darker stuff can be definitely more powerful. I will attest to that.
And I wonder what makes it dark compared to a light spirit. You know, maybe a negative person in life.
I would
angry.
say if you were negative in life, you would usually be negative in the afterlife. If you're a prankster when you were alive, like Jimmy and Lester's, aka Jules, however we want to call it, they are pranksters in the afterlife. So or people could have brought energy here that was negative and it just stayed here because they're like, hey, this is a great place to hang out. We got a lot of ghosts and stuff here. Why don't we just stay here? So people could have brought stuff here, or it could have just been over time all the suffering and all the pain that came with this place.
Yep.
That's what I think it would be.
It's all manifested and it's kind of stained the walls here.
It's definitely stained this building. This building is seen. If these walls could talk, this building would tell some tales you wouldn't even believe.
Well, on that note, we are going to end this podcast and begin our investigation. If you guys online are watching or listening to this podcast, the investigation that we are about to take part in, I don't know what to call that, will be posted on our YouTube channel, the Paranormal Files official channel, right when this podcast goes live. So if you're listening to this, hearing this sentence, that investigation is live. I highly recommend that you go check it out right now. You have a YouTube channel too, right?
I do, DGK Media.
Okay.
Right there on the hat.
Big shout out to DGK Media.
Mm-hmm.
If you guys want to go check his channel out, we've been talking for this last 10 minutes in the ice cold weather. So
You can see your breath in this place.
I know. It's not the ghost, it's the damn
it's the cold.
frigid air. But I just want to thank everybody who came tonight and everybody who's out there listening. As always, you know it's me, Colin, here in Pennsylvania. Thank you all so much, and you're making our dreams come true. So for the Paranormal Files official podcast, it's Colin here. You guys have a spooky rest of your day and or night, wherever you are in the world, and we'll see you next time. Boom.
Don't forget to head to the Paranormal Files official channel on YouTube to see what spooky things transpired when we turned the microphones off.